So the biggest issue I have when I work with restaurants is consistency, right? They want their staff to deliver a guest experience consistently, be consistent in their execution of their job, dealing with the guests and giving hospitality, and not just doing what they see fit. That is crucial aspect of customer retention in a restaurant, right? The whole goal of a restaurant is to give the guests the best experience possible. That should be your goal, that should be everyone's goal if you own a restaurant. Give the guests the best experience possible with the food, with the ambiance, and also sometimes the most importantly with the hospitality, right? Because now more than ever, it's very rare to get hospitality consistently, and if you can, then you're gonna be ahead of the pack automatically just with that. So how do you do that? Well, it all starts with training. You can just rate what your staff will be based off of the training. If you have bad training, then you're probably gonna have staff that's giving a bad performance, right? Now, when I say bad, I don't mean they're horrible or they're getting bad reviews all the time or people are walking out of the restaurant, but it's just something where they're kind of people leaving go, okay, it was whatever, it was fine, not very memorable, or it's inconsistent, right? I come in and Preston's here, he's awesome. If I come in and Billy's here, it's not as good, right? I came in one time, it was great. I came in another time, it wasn't great. Inconsistency, that's bad, right? That's bad because any inconsistency is costing you money. Anytime someone walks in and gets a different experience, 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna trust it anymore, and they're gonna go somewhere else where they can trust the experience because people wanna trust where they're spending their money. They wanna trust the experience. No one wants to go to a car dealership and get 2 different experiences, right? You come in one day and you get the best experience ever. The second time you come in, your wheels falling off your car as you drive out of the parking lot. You're not gonna go back to that car dealership. And it's not because they're bad people or they're doing a bad job, but they just lost your trust. They can beg all they want, buy your tires, say they're sorry, it'll never happen again, but you're not gonna risk the tire falling off the car again. There's no way you're going somewhere else. So it's the same with the guest experience, and we have to make sure it's consistent. So if your training is not good, then the guest experience is not gonna be good consistently. Okay? Now, if you say my training, Preston, is top notch, it's airtight, I'm absolutely in love with it, I know it's as best it can be, well then you probably run a pretty successful restaurant. You probably have some pretty successful numbers and you probably have more than one location, which is awesome, congratulations. But for those of you who are struggling, kind of figuring out what's wrong and why things aren't working out the way you want them to or things aren't the way you want them to be, especially with your employees, and that's probably what it is, it's your training. You have to have airtight training, it has to be there. It won't work any other way. There's no successful restaurant in the world over a long period of time that has bad training. It just doesn't exist because they can't. You can't survive on it. You can survive. You can when I say ride the line, right? You can make the bills, you can make the payments, but if you want to thrive, if you want to grow, if you want to expand, if you want to scale, then you have to have elevated training. You have to have it. It's just so important. So what does that look like? First of all, you want to make sure that everything's written out, right? You have a training guide for each staff, but it has to be more than just training, okay? It has to talk to them. It has to be like a good book where they want to read it, where it's a learning piece. They're actually gonna learn from it. They're actually gonna grow from it. There's hospitality in it a lot. You gotta be teaching them hospitality every single step of the way. If you're just training on steps of service, that's what they're gonna give, it's just service. We wanna train them on hospitality. It has to be elevated. So their training guide has to be like just covered in hospitality ideology and examples, stories. Again, it has to be like a good book. They have to read it and learn and understand from it. And it has to teach them how to do their job at the same time. But you have to remember that with the training itself, only about 40% of it actually sticks, right? 40% of it should be taught up front, right? Because the rest of it we can teach along the way. But if you try and teach all 100% at once, they're gonna forget 80% of it. They're gonna remember the 20% and they're gonna write on that. That's not good. That's not good either. So we wanna create that 40% of training in the guide. And then we have a training roadmap. That's what I call it. Basically, their training, day 1, day 2, day 3, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, step by step is mapped out. It's blueprinted. Every time you train someone, they get trained the same exact way every single time. And we have tests. We have food tests. We have drink tests, food guides, drink guides, hospitality guides, culture tests, hospitality tests. Those are all things you have to put in there. And if you want people that are going to be serious, they're going to take the job serious, and they're going to pass those tests. And you have good training, then good trainers are going to pass that test. You also need trainers, trained trainers. They have to be trained to train. If you have Preston here training because he's been here the longest, well, guess what? He's going to also teach those bad habits by default, by accident. He's going to accidentally slip up and do something wrong. They're going to say, I thought we were supposed to do it this way. You go, oh, yeah, that's just the way. Now, the trainee goes, oh, so these things are optional. These rules are optional. Got it. Okay, cool. Oh, I can be 5 minutes late. Preston was a couple minutes late. I could be a couple minutes late. All of a sudden, they start learning how to game the system before they even step foot on the floor on their own shift, right? They're already cutting corners. They're already being taught to cut corners. And once that's instilled, it's very hard to reverse it, almost impossible. So we have to focus on trained trainers that are holding the expectations and standards to a very, very high level. This is how we do things. We are a very serious organization. We take things serious, and we're going to execute at a high level. And that's it. Also, what's important is setting expectations. Want to set expectations, let them know if you do this, you're gonna have a very fun job here, you're gonna love your job, we're gonna be very rewarding. If you don't do this, so we're gonna hold you accountable and there will be repercussions. Pretty simple. There's nothing personal, it's just business and that's it. You're gonna be held accountable when you don't perform and you don't hold up your end of the bargain. So that training is so important. And then an exit interview. Want them to have a manager meal where they serve the manager, a bartender serves the manager, to make sure they know, and then an exit interview with the manager, before the manager can actually talk to them and say, did you understand everything? And with that being said, I forgot to mention one important thing. We have assessments after every shift. After every training shift, we have an assessment. They don't pass the assessment, they didn't retain the information that we gave them, the training we gave them, they don't move on to the next shift. Why would they? Why are we auto-moving them to the next shift? It makes no sense. Again, setting yourself up for failure, tying your trainees' hands behind their back, recipe for failure. So that's an overview of the training. I hope that helped and I hope that made sense. But again, you need great training to have a great restaurant.